for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
My name is Jack Prince, your fellow co-host.
We've got quite a bit to talk about today. A lot of candidates have dropped out, and we're going to tell you why they dropped out. There is a reason behind it all, and this might not be what you think. Although if you're a longtime listener of this show, you already know where we're going with this. Plus, we've got a Double Hammer Time Award and so much more to talk about, including the coronavirus. But before we get going, a reminder, you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com. Do a search for Southpaws there. You can also find us on the iTunes Store. Do a search under Podcast for Southpaws. Once you've found our logo, you found us. All of our episodes are also uploaded to our Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube page. So find us on YouTube by searching for Southpaws Radio. And, of course, we are on Great Pacifica stations across the country, including KCEI-FM in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM Kabul, Missouri, and we have an update on Global Community Radio Channel 1. We have been switched. We are now on every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check us out there. And I tell you what, Jack, I just can't believe all the things that are going on these days. It's just amazing. The coronavirus is the one that's really got people scared at this point. And I want to get to this. This is from Michelle Toe, writing for CNN Business. This is from Friday, March 6th, out of Hong Kong. Rationing supplies, overwhelmed delivery workers, toilet paper protected by security guards. This is the new reality for some retailers that are having to take drastic action to limit the number of toilet paper rolls, face masks, and hand sanitizer bottles each person can buy as customers stockpile goods over fears of the novel coronavirus outbreak. The epidemic has infected more than 97,000 people and has killed 3,300 globally, leading to growing alarm that has resulted in mass bulk buying around the world. I want to stop real quick here, Jack. Why are people buying bottled water? Don't you have taps?
I asked the same exact thing. You know what it is that they had film 3 days ago of people going in buying water, toilet paper. If they showed people buying canned corn, there'd be a run on canned corn. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any difference. They just, it's like you see somebody make a line, you're going to go over and get in it. And it's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. Enough toilet paper to last 6 months. I got a half a roll in my house, and I feel very comfortable.
Yep. Let me just continue reading here. In Australia, the supermarket chains Woolworths and Coles began limiting toilet paper purchases to 4 packs per person this week.
Oh, well, can you make it?
Costco Australia is also restricting how much toilet tissue, disinfectant, milk, eggs, and rice each customer can buy. In the U.S., Kroger says it is capping individual purposes of sanitization, cold and flu-related products, while Home Depot is curbing the number of face masks and single orders placed online and in stores. As a matter of fact, in the state of Michigan, the Attorney General, Dana Nessel, has come out and has already threatened retailers with major sanctions if they start trying to price gouge customers. This comes after a Wood TV Target 8 story that came out where a True Value store in Allendale, Michigan, actually, which is not very far from where we're recording right now, was charging $10 for a single 3M N95 mask.
$10.
$10.
I'll call them today, just like I called the True Value store out in Cannonball, North Dakota, when they were charging ridiculous prices for little propane canisters because the Native Americans were trying to stay warm and eat something at the protests out in the middle of the winter. Mm-hmm. And they very quickly apologized. Matter of fact, I think there were some heads that rolled. So the gouging right here.
Yep. Well, Target 8 caught them at it and reported it to the Attorney General. So they've apparently have now backed off. So
they back off when they get caught, and then they're real apologetic.
Well, maybe you should take a little trip there. It's not very far.
Oh, you should have heard them backpedal out there when I called the True Value store. Because I know how cold it was. I was out there. And these poor Native Americans would gather around a little single-burner propane stove. That was their lifeline. Mm-hmm. So what did True Value do? They're charging 4 times the amount for the propane. Then they even stopped it. Instead of lowering the price, when they got caught, they just, we won't sell any.
Well, I tell you what, we have some
tips. Talk about Trump with this coronavirus.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's get into that a little bit, and then we've got some real tips for you.
Yeah, that's no kidding. You know, Trump's at it every day, but when he's trying to protect the image of the United States over the coronavirus, it's maybe the most laughable attempt yet. He found himself in a vexing situation as he struggles to grapple with coronavirus, which is now spreading rapidly throughout the United States. Mm-hmm. We know, Darren, that he put Pence in charge of running this. I put a post out that showed, I think it was Will Ferrell with snakes, holding up snakes like the snake handlers in Tennessee. And
in the eastern hills of Kentucky, let me add.
Yeah. And the caption was Pence's first meeting on coronavirus.
This is the same Pence that believes you can pray the gay away.
Pray the gay away. Hey, that's all perfect alliteration.
Let's pray the coronavirus away.
If there were a normal crisis, Trump would stress to Americans that everything is fine.
And where are you reading this from?
This is from Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
His administration is handling it better than any other administration could ever have dreamed in history, and everyone should proceed to shower him with praise. But unlike hurricanes, trade disputes, or threats of nuclear annihilation from murderous dictators, coronavirus is in the United States right now. It's getting worse. And the population's health is at stake. So is the health of the stock market, which Trump indicated as his primary concern in a February tweet, in which he also claimed coronavirus is very much under control. But Wednesday, 160 people in at least 17 states have been infected, while 11 have died. I think that 11's up to 150 now.
In the U.S.?
Yeah, it's substantial. It's mushroomed.
I haven't seen that figure yet. Matter of fact, they did not report that on the Today Show as we record.
Yeah, I maybe I misheard it, but it's definitely climbing. And as the tally continues to climb, Trump's trusted "we've got it taken care of" line is losing its effectiveness. Even for someone who built a political career around imploring Americans to ignore reality in favor of his make-believe appraisal of what's happening in the country. This has forced Trump to pivot to a different but no less familiar strategy, spewing absolute nonsense with potentially damning effects. And what is that damaging information? Trump says the World Health Organization report that the global death rate for coronavirus is 3.5%. It's a false number. Then he said, this is just my hunch. He estimated then that the number is way under 1%. 2, Trump says the virus is very mild and that people are getting better very rapidly, implying that if these people were taken into account reports of how many people are infected, the death rate would be far lower. Trump calls the coronavirus the corona flu. Trump says many of those infected get better just by, sitting around and going to work. You heard it. Trump goes on tangent about how many people die from the common flu, suggesting that tens of thousands of people die from the flu every year, making the death rate under 1% very substantially the death rate for the corona, and that the death rate for the coronavirus must be similarly small. All total pieces of horsepucky. Every single point that he made. You seem to have in your voice, Darren, a real concern for the potential of this epidemic.
Yeah, the death toll is 12. 11 deaths in Washington State, 1 in California. That is according to Yahoo News, who is reporting this from Grace Houck at USA Today.
But let me go back to what I just stressed. How threatening do you think this is? What is the potential? We've gone through these every spring, late winter, and then it gets better by the middle of March. I don't think this is the same cat, is it?
No, it isn't. And here it is. This is a post that's gone around a little bit on Facebook. I did a little digging into this. This is a post. This is Dr. James Robb. He is a medical doctor. He is a renowned pathologist. He has studied the coronavirus since the early 1970s. If he was called to court, he would be considered an expert witness. Here's what he wrote. Dear family and friends, as some of you may recall, when I was a professor of pathology at the University of California, San Diego, I was one of the first molecular virologists in the world to work on coronaviruses, the 1970s. I was the first to demonstrate the number of genes the virus contained. Since then, I have kept up with the coronavirus field and its multiple clinical transfers into the human population from different animal sources. He mentioned SARS and MERS, which are also part of the coronavirus family. The current projections for its expansion in the U.S. are only probable due to continued insufficient worldwide data, but it is most likely to be widespread by mid to late March and April, which we're starting to get there, 17 states. Here's what I have done and the precautions that I take and will take. These are the same precautions I currently use during our influenza seasons except for the mask and gloves. Number 1, no handshaking. Use a fist bump, slight bow, elbow bump, etc. Or a slight bow, I guess. Number 2, use only your knuckle to touch light switches, elevator buttons, etc. Lift the gasoline dispenser with a paper towel or use a disposable glove. Number 3, open doors with your closed fist or hip. Do not grasp the handle with your hand unless there is no other way to open the door, especially important on bathroom and post office or commercial doors. Number 4, use disinfectant wipes at the stores when they are available, including wiping the handle and child seat in grocery carts. 5, wash your hands with soap for 10 to 20 seconds and or use a greater than 60% alcohol-based hand sanitizer whenever you return home from any activity that involves locations where other people have been. Now, for the 20 seconds, Dr. Oz has said sing the happy birthday song twice. That's about 20 seconds. Number 6, keep a bottle of hand sanitizer available at each of your home's entrances and in your car for use after getting gas or touching other contaminated objects when you can't immediately wash your hands. Number 7, if possible, cough or sneeze into a disposable tissue and discard. Use your elbow only if you have to. The clothing on your elbow will contain an infectious virus that can be passed on for up to a week or more. And I want to stop there real quick because I can pass this story along to you. When I was little, I remember my dad carrying a handkerchief around and blowing his nose into it and sticking it back into his back pocket. It was the grossest thing I remember growing up as a child. Just saying. Let me continue Dr. Robb's post here.
I remember the farmers. I was raised on a farm that would block one nostril off and shoot a wad of snot 15 feet across.
Ugh, gross. If you're having lunch or breakfast, we apologize for only warning you after the fact.
The things kids remember, huh?
Yeah. Let me continue Dr. Robb's post. What I have stocked in preparation for the pandemic spread to the U.S. Number 1, latex or nitrile latex disposable gloves for use when going shopping, using the gasoline pump, and all other outside activity when you come in contact with contaminated areas. Note, this virus is spread in large droplets by coughing and sneezing. This means that the air will not infect you, but all the surfaces where these droplets land is infectious for about a week on average. Everything that is associated with infected people will be contaminated and potentially infectious. The virus is on surfaces and you will not be infected unless your unprotected face is directly coughed or sneezed upon. This virus only has cell receptors for lung cells. In other words, it only infects your lungs. The only way for the virus to infect you is through your nose or mouth via your hands or an infected cough or sneeze onto or into your nose or mouth. 2, stock up now with disposable surgical masks and use them to prevent you from touching your nose and or mouth. We touch our nose or mouth 90 times a day without knowing it. This is the only way this virus can infect you. It is lung specific. The mask will not prevent the virus in a direct sneeze from getting into your nose or mouth. It is only to keep you from touching your nose or mouth. 3. Stock up now with hand sanitizers and latex nitrile gloves. Get the appropriate sizes for your family. The hand sanitizers must be alcohol-based and greater than 60% alcohol to be effective. 4. Stock up now with zinc lozenges. These lozenges have been proven to be effective in blocking coronavirus and most other viruses from multiplying in your throat and nasopharynx. Use as directed several times each day when you begin to feel any cold-like symptoms beginning. It is best to lie down and let the lozenge dissolve in the back of your throat and nasopharynx. Cold-Ease lozenges is one brand available, but there are other brands available. I, as many others do, hope that this pandemic will be reasonably contained, but I personally do not think it will be. Humans have never seen this snake-associated virus before and have no internal defense against it. Tremendous worldwide efforts are being made to understand the molecular and clinical virology of this virus. Unbelievable molecular knowledge about the genomics, structure, and virulence of this virus has already been achieved. But there will be no drugs or vaccines available this year to protect us or limit the infection within us. Only symptomatic support is available. I hope these personal thoughts will be helpful during this potentially catastrophic pandemic. Good luck to all of us. And it is signed James Robb, MD, FCAP.
Darren, you said virus associated with snakes?
Yes.
See, I heard they came from bats. Did
What?
they know?
What do bats eat?
So it starts with the snake.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're theorizing.
That's what, yes. This is an expert
Wow.
in the field, has been for 50 years.
So the Republicans really are to blame.
Because they're snakes?
Oh, okay.
Well, so are the Democrats.
Yeah, right.
I tell you what, I'll say it right here, and I'll just be controversial for a minute. There is no Democratic Party anymore. It's only in name. You have the left and right wing of the Republican Party. That's a period. End of story.
In your memory, folks.
Yep.
You can read about it. FDR, you want to read about it? Go ahead. And again, no, I want to go back just with the worst case scenario. Has it slowed down in China?
They are reporting it is. The government is.
Okay, how many thousands of deaths later? But
Now, whether or not you actually believe what they have to say is another story.
See, I have no real scientific research going on here, but I did read somewhere that this could affect 70% of the world's population. It has that kind of potential. And when I see all of Western Europe, particularly Italy, disinfested, I'm just thinking, what is the possible end game of this? Because we're accustomed to this burning out in 2 weeks from now. It's happened every spring, like I said. This, though, I mean, literally,
this isn't the flu. This is worse. It's
have
still a virus.
Have the Christians capitalized on this, blaming it on gays or gay legislation yet?
But it's funny you mention that because Reverend Jim Baker, the Pride of West Michigan, is hawking some sort of solution on his televangelist give me money bullshit program that the FDA and the FTC might start cracking down on him.
What's he selling? He was selling packets of survival.
Yeah, he was selling food in a bucket. No, now he's selling these blue bottles that are full. I think it's called Silver Solution.
Wait a second. Is this the same guy that had the air-conditioned doghouse for his dog and paid thousands of dollars of facelifts and breast implants for his wife, taking money from the old women that were sitting home starving to death while he didn't have any real estate? He was talking about this con guy. Anybody should listen to him?
And build a water slide. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Jerry Falwell had to bail him out.
And I don't want to get in the Bernie thing too quickly, but there's a man you can go back his entire life, and he's been genuine, and he hasn't even contradicted himself once. But you go back into people like Baker, you see where, like Warren, she was a Republican. Hillary, she worked for Walmart. She was a Republican. Baker was a total con guy that was convicted lightly of his crimes, and now he has any platform whatsoever. Folks, go with a long-time proven record. It works. It really does.
Yes, it does. By the way, if you want a really good laugh, go on YouTube, or if you happen to have the old Sam Kinison album, dig it out, and play the track where he just rips on Jim Baker. and for that matter, Jessica Hahn, who later appeared in his music video for Wild Thing. Don't play it around the kids, though.
Well, it wasn't just him. Didn't Swaggart come back out after?
Yeah,
crying for
Swaggart's
millions
back
of
on
dollars?
TV. Yeah.
And then, of course, the guy that talked about, hey, give me $10 million. I'm going up in the prayer tower, and I'm going to starve myself to death. You won't see me again. And you get the $10 million donation.
They're all nuts. The people that follow that are nutty, and the people that are perpetrating this, they're the ones that are taking all the money. They're the geniuses because they're playing you for a sucker.
They're nuttier than fruitcakes named Joe Biden.
Yeah, exactly. And I got one other story about the coronavirus before we continue. This is from Matthew Impelli, writing for Newsweek. Listen to this. On Monday, a student from Sarasota Military Academy in Florida was placed in quarantine for COVID-19. Just days after the student's classmates shook hands and posed for pictures with Vice President Mike Pence.
He's a carrier.
According to a Facebook post by the Academy, the student and his mother were placed in quarantine stemming from the mother's contact with a patient at Sarasota Doctors Hospital in her professional role. The Facebook post also notes that the student and his mother have not shown any symptoms of the disease officially known as COVID-19, but in a press release sent to Newsweek, the school's executive director, Christina Bowman, wrote that, quote, it is recommended by the Florida Department of Health that anyone who may have come in contact with those impacted by the virus should self-quarantine at home as a precautionary measure, end of quote. So,
I saw this thing on TV where they're saying, do not touch your face, right?
Yeah.
And a woman was giving the speech, and 3 times during the speech, she put her finger in her mouth to wet her finger to spread the pages.
To turn the pages.
You might as well ask people not to blink.
Yeah.
Do not blink any longer until this epidemic is over.
Yeah.
You might put a football helmet on. That might keep you, but otherwise, you're not going to stop touching your face.
You know who else did? Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kept brushing her hair back.
Oh, yeah. They showed people 50 times in a minute touch their face.
Yeah. Trump's like, I haven't touched my face in a week.
Nobody else has either.
What a... I was hoping you'd say that, especially Melania.
Well, then it showed Melania shaking hands.
Oh,
you watch. Hey, listen,
I don't get
when
it.
the AIDS, when the epidemic that was just ravaging the gay community, I remember those holy rollers coming out with this is God's revenge, this is the 7th horse and the 14th heavens or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Coming to bring judgment, and it's coming. And so who do you put in charge of?
You put a bunch of science deniers in charge of science. How stupid is that?
Is that not ass backwards?
It is ass backwards. It truly is.
I mean, we burnt witches.
It's beyond stupid. Yeah, and that was a
Salem.
dumb thing, too.
We burnt witches, and so we're going to have a commission to understand the crime of burning innocent people alive at the stake. So you go get the deacons of the First Salem long-nosed judgmental Christian church to be the head of the committee to investigate the crime. You're putting Mike Pence in charge of what should be a scientific endeavor that really has us all on the edge of who knows of what disaster.
You know how many job vacancies are in the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention right now?
No.
Over 750 jobs that have not been filled because Trump has frozen the budget of the CDC. He's frozen the budgets of pretty much every government agency. They can't hire people.
Yeah, I think Jim Baker should join Pence, right? Sarah Palin.
Maybe
Jim, what's the guy out in Iowa?
Inhofe. Or the Oklahoma is where he's from.
Wherever.
Yeah.
I mean, let's come right out and admit it, Trump. You like witchcraft.
But, Jack, Jack.
Yeah, I got to lighten up. I guess I didn't sleep enough.
Jack, he's just a good Christian. He wouldn't do anything that would be considered sinful.
Well, if we go down the hypocrisy of the religious right support for Trump, we could spend days. So,
yeah,
let's go to some more injustices. I mean, it's been a hard week watching Bernie struggle. First of all, last Tuesday, seeing him cheated, seeing the lines 7 hours long in Texas and
California.
Yeah, knowing that that's the heart of his support.
Yeah, they closed.
Accident.
They closed over 500 polling places in the state of Texas. They closed over 3,000 in California.
Yeah,
Folks,
so,
this is by design.
Exactly. Plus, you had the orchestrated coup.
Yeah.
Of the endorsements of Klobuchar, and of course Beto came in, and so did little Pete. The whole establishment choir started singing at the same exact time, just hours before Super Tuesday, and then you had a bevy of the endorsements coming from the Democratic Party machine from all over the place. And Carville comes out and says that Claiborne's endorsement of Biden saved the Democratic Party. Quote.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it was on the ropes, James. Mm-hmm. It needed to be saved, and you had a black Uncle Tom come out and save the Democratic Party? Wow. You should be proud.
Yeah. I'm going to read this. This was a post to Twitter on February 29th. This is Mike Prisner writing this. He's a documentary producer. He wrote this. Today we learned Warren campaign admitted their goal is to blunt Sanders' momentum. And Biden's campaign asked Klobuchar not to drop out till after Super Tuesday simply to try to deny Bernie the win in Minnesota. Is it just me, or is this not how the primary is supposed to work? And I'm going to stop there before I continue his next Twitter, because Klobuchar did drop the day before Super Tuesday when nobody could change their ballots. Let me just add that. So he continues. Democratic establishment urged Steyer to drop out because he is taking votes from Biden. They want Amy to stay just long enough to prevent Bernie win in one state. They want Warren to stay till the convention because 40% of her supporters have Bernie as second choice. All are complying. Well, and Warren dropped out. And we'll get to that here in just a minute.
Well, Williamson came out and said unequivocally it was a coup. She later took that down. And she's a bit flighty, but I'll tell you what, it was so clear. Another article we've got written down here we might talk about is the fact that the Stop Bernie maneuver is in full force. Mm-hmm. It's been implemented. Rolling Stone.
You know what? Let's get into that, because that is a really good story. This is Andy Kroll writing for Rolling Stone magazine out of Washington. This is dated March 2nd. That sound you hear is the collective exhale of the Democratic establishment after Joe Biden's landslide victory in South Carolina. The 2020 Democratic campaign has undergone a radical makeover in the 48 hours since Biden's win. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat Minnesota, former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and billionaire Tom Steyer hastily exited the race. Klobuchar and Buttigieg endorsed Biden on the eve of Super Tuesday, a potential inflection point in the race as 14 states and one territory cast their ballots. More than 1,300 delegates will be handed out, making this the biggest day of the nomination battle so far. And I'm going to stop real quick. By the way, they haven't finished counting in Colorado, and they haven't finished counting in California.
Isn't it funny that all those states that Bernie won, they're still counting?
Yeah, except for Vermont.
Well, that one they don't dare even question. But every other one, those are the ones they're still counting in.
Yeah. No kidding.
What does that speak of?
That's by design, too.
You're damn right it is.
Let me continue the story. Biden's victory unleashed a flood of endorsements by party fixtures and card-carrying members of the old guard. Former Virginia Governor and DNC Chairman Terry McAuliffe, former DNC Chairwoman Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida, who I can't stand her, former Senator Barbara Boxer of California. Barbara Boxer is the one that was flipping off Bernie supporters as she was walking off stage in 2016 at the Nevada Democratic Convention, along with dozens of mayors, state legislators, and sitting members of Congress. The New York Times reported Monday night that former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke would also endorse Biden less than 24 hours before voting began in the Texas primary.
Ladies and gentlemen. They sat down, they timed this like a football coach running his offense. They knew exactly when and where it was going to be implemented. This is the DNC at its best.
And then Bloomberg dropped out, and then the day after Super Tuesday, it was Thursday, Senator Elizabeth Warren dropped out. So there's 3 candidates left in the race. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, and the one nobody's talking about, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, Hawaii.
The only woman left there.
Yes.
Now the big question,
and the corporate-owned conservative mainstream media is saying this is a 2-man race.
Now, here's the deal. Didn't we see this in 2016? Didn't we see a Super Tuesday slowdown of Bernie's campaign because somebody out east didn't endorse him?
Yep.
And I think her name was Elizabeth Warren in the very key state of Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And deja vu all over again. Here we are. She puts a stick in this election by doing what, Darren? By not endorsing Bernie? Well, that hasn't happened yet. No. Even worse than that, hanging in on Super Tuesday, knocking Bernie out of, I've heard it estimated, at least 4 states. Mm-hmm. Her progressive votes would have gone into his column in those 4 states, and we would have a different day, a total different day today. The driver's seat wouldn't be shared with Joe. It would be Bernie's going out of Super Tuesday. 16 out of the last 17 Democratic nominees all won Super Tuesday. It was crucial that they win it, and the DNC, that same DNC that told Klobuchar when to quit, told Petey when to quit, told Warren, you stay in it. Even though the polls show you're going to get your butt beat, stay in there because you're going to draw votes from Bernie. If you don't think they don't orchestrate and plan it this way, you haven't been awake since 2016. You've been Rip Van Winkle since 2015. Mm-hmm. If you don't think this is exactly what they are pulling off. And I got a question for you, Darren. Mm-hmm. Will Warren endorse a real progressive? Will the supposed real progressive Warren endorse the only other progressive standing at this time? In a very pivotal moment, do you think she's going to stand up and say, I mean, how long did it take Pete to endorse Biden? 30 seconds after he resigned?
Yeah.
How about Amy?
Immediately.
What do you got to think about, Liz? What are you contemplating?
Here's my professional opinion. This is coming from the guy that correctly predicted a month before the Michigan primary in 2016 that Bernie was going to win. No other pundit did it. Not Rick Albin at Wood TV, not Inside Michigan Politics, not Nate Silver. It was me. Here's my professional opinion. The answer is no. She will not endorse Bernie. She will either not endorse anybody or she'll endorse Biden. One or the other.
There is a chance she'll wait and see with the long shot if Bernie is going to win because she couldn't stand that ruination of her whole career if Bernie does win after she endorses Biden. So she may just sit and hide in the darkness, wait and see who eventually is the winner or close to winning at the end. But the bottom line is you're right. Yeah. She will not endorse Bernie. And she was picking on him last night and his supporters last night for supposedly cause. She ain't going to support. Here's some things you Democrats aren't going to hear.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear this in mainstream media. You'll hear it here on Southpaws, okay? Here's some things that you do not know, realize.
And where are you reading this from?
I am reading this from Daily Mail.
Okay.
12 things about Elizabeth Warren you probably didn't realize. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not hearing this. You aren't hearing these. You may hear one every week or so, but you never hear them compiled. Number 1. Elizabeth Warren secured endorsement from a far-left Working Families Party after Think Tank, where her daughter is chairman, gave it $45,000. 2, Warren and Clinton talk behind the scenes as 2020 race intensifies. That's NBC News, okay? The first item I gave you was from the Daily Mail. Number 3, Elizabeth Warren was in favor of increased spending on the war machine. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? All you people that think she's a real progressive was in favor of increased spending on the war machine. Do you remember Bernie's the only guy that didn't vote for the Iraq War? Number 4, and by the way, that's from leftvoice.org. Number 4, she has taken money from Wall Street and large corporations. That we know. Remember her vow not to take PAC money. Well, she backed out of that just as fast as she did out of her commitment, supposedly, for single-payer health care.
Yep.
She's a faster weather vane than Hillary. She's got more speed revolutions than Hillary does.
Yep.
5, she supported and voted for Republican Ben Carson, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. You know Ben, the brain surgeon?
Yeah.
That must have operated himself and forgot to close the stitches. Number 6, Elizabeth Warren's daughter is co-founder of United Healthcare Group Insurance Company. Liz will never support Medicare for all. I repeat, Warren's daughter is co-founder of the United Healthcare Group Insurance Company. Liz was a corporate lawyer for years. That's my own insertion. Mm-hmm. Number 7, as a lawyer, Elizabeth Warren worked to limit Dow Chemicals' liability to breast implant victims. Here's this great feminist. Ladies and gentlemen, as a lawyer, Elizabeth Warren worked to limit Dow Chemicals' liability to breast implant victims. That is from the Washington Post. Number 8, Elizabeth Warren defends Israeli shelling of Gaza schools, hospitals. That may be the most despicable of them all. That may bring up regurgitation right here at the table. 9, she was a Republican until she was 47. And the research I've done that is, it's spread over such a long time, she was a Republican for life. She was a hardcore Republican. Her colleagues and friends said she'd go to parties and so forth, and she ratted neoliberalism and market policy issues like a hard right-winger. Number 11, harsh foreclosure critic Elizabeth Warren reportedly made a fortune flipping foreclosed homes. It's incredible. Number 12, Elizabeth Warren lied about having a Native American heritage to advance her career, then made a video to vindicate herself, and now has deleted that video. I saw the form that she signed that said she was a Native American of the United States in a voting registration, okay? She cannot call her a progressive, not when her record on foreign policy is poor, not when she says she'll take corporate money in the general election, not when she voted for Trump's military budget increase more than once, not when she says she's open to a middle ground approach in regards to universal health care. She won't take on the insurance companies. Only a real progressive like Bernie will do that. Mm-hmm. When she applauded Trump for saying America will never be socialist. Are you kidding me, Elizabeth? Nobody is even trying to be a socialist country. It's the sentiment that she knew what she was referring to. He was referring not to progressives, and she stood up and clapped for him. Disgusting. What an actress. When she endorsed Hillary over Bernie, this is something the Southpaws continue to highlight through the months. Mm-hmm. She could have endorsed him early in the race. Instead of waiting when it was clear Bernie wasn't going to win, she after admitted the race was rigged. This is a F phony. If Bernie gets an A as far as being progressive, someone like Biden would get an F. And Warren would get a F- in my book, which is nothing to brag about because the media wants to prop her up because she won't cause as much damage to the status quo as a real progressive like Bernie. I'll vote for the candidate with real conviction. I'll vote the candidate with a proven record. I repeat, a proven record. Not like Hillary's. You got to go back and flip-flop through Republican eras. Mm-hmm. I'll vote for a candidate that doesn't do what's popular all the time, but does what's right all of the time. And I'm going to quit here.
And I was going to say, who wrote that?
This is from a woman named Ludmila Sharma. She's a Bernie person.
Okay.
No surprise there.
Yep.
Down here at the bottom, I'm not going to take the time to read it, but I see Elizabeth Warren's list of billionaire donors. And included in that list is Thomas Steyer. Included in that list is Amy Goldman. I'm not going to, go through the entire thing. Yep. It's endless. Billionaires. Billionaires have no trouble with her. Billionaires, not one of them has given one penny to Bernie because he's the real deal, and she's a very smooth actress.
Yep. And I'm going to piggyback on top of this with this article. This is Patrick Martin writing for the World Socialist Web Site. This is dated March 3rd, so this is before Super Tuesday. The Democratic Party is engaged in a last-ditch effort to boost the struggling campaign of former Vice President Joe Biden and block the nomination of Senator Bernie Sanders. They fear that in today's primary contest in 14 states, Sanders could open up an insurmountable lead in terms of the number of delegates to the Democratic nominating convention. In the wake of Biden's victory in the South Carolina primary Saturday, the party leadership has pushed two of the right-wing candidates for the presidential nomination, Senator Amy Klobuchar and former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, out of the race.
Yep.
Both traveled to Dallas, Texas Monday to endorse Biden, with Buttigieg appearing with the former vice president at a local restaurant and Klobuchar addressing a campaign rally in the evening. Let me read this paragraph. Former President Barack Obama reportedly took the lead in pressuring Buttigieg in a phone call from the former commander-in-chief to the former naval intelligence officer, telling him this was his maximum leverage for future influence in the Democratic Party. It is not known who spoke to Klobuchar, but she addressed a campaign rally in Salt Lake City, Utah on Monday morning as a candidate, and 90 minutes later announced she was ending her campaign and endorsing Biden.
Yeah, all these establishment fish swim in the same stream. I've got an article from Common Dreams. Obama, that add to what you're saying, I'm not going to read this. Obama privately considered leaning Stop the Bernie campaign to combat Sanders. He was ready to roll with that.
Yep, and we've talked about that in the weeks before this episode. Let me continue. Again, this is the World Socialist Web Site. Another failed presidential candidate, former Representative Beto O'Rourke of Texas, also announced his support for Biden on Monday, as did a slew of other top Democrats. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former chair of the Democratic National Committee, former Obama National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton's vice presidential running mate in 2016, Tim Kaine, and many others. And right now with that, we're going to talk about this because we need to play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer time!
Oh yeah, it's hammer time. It's the time of the show where we get to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week, and we've got 2 winners this week. And anytime we have 2 winners, we also got to play this.
The double douche. Who's that guy? Gentlemen, Wade Garrett. Holy shit. Exactly right.
That's right.
Double douche.
Winner number 1, Elizabeth Warren. Yep. Elizabeth Warren, listen to this. This is audio of her rally speech in Houston on Saturday, February 29th. This runs 1 minute 20 seconds where she talks about why you shouldn't vote for Biden, Bloomberg, and Bernie. Take a listen, folks. This is something else.
With fears of an economic crisis and recession rising, with fears of a global pandemic rising, Americans must ask themselves, who do you actually trust to run this government? Donald Trump has already shown he is not up to the task. So let's talk about who Democrats should nominate. Now, I'm going to be blunt here. This crisis demands more than a billionaire mayor who believes that since he's rich enough to buy network airtime to pretend he's the president, that entitles him to be the president. A mayor whose track record has shown that he'll govern to protect himself and his rich friends over everyone else. That's a no. This crisis demands more than a former vice president who is so eager to cut deals with Mitch McConnell and the Republicans that he'll trade good ideas for bad ones. And this crisis demands more than a senator who has good ideas but whose 30-year track record shows he consistently calls for things that fail to get done and consistently opposing things that nevertheless he fails to stop.
Wow. And this is supposedly one of Bernie Sanders' friends? I got a personal message for Senator Sanders right now. Bernie, I've had many friends, multiple employers stab me in the back and gaslight me. You know what I did? I walked away from them, never to look back. I suggest you do the same. Jack, the floor is yours.
I've got a personal message as well going out to the grouping and especially the administrators of a group called the
Indivisible
Greater Grand Rapids.
Yep.
I posted an article that indicated that the moderate candidate like Hillary, let's just go through the list, like Humphrey, like Dukakis, like Gore, on and on it goes. These so-called uniters, right, have gotten their butts handed to them in the election, and that if you're going to vote for Biden, an acclaimed moderate that's going to unify the party, you might go back to history and check the results.
Mm-hmm.
It was up for, on the invisible Greater Grand Rapids Post, it was up for less than 10 minutes.
Yep.
It was shot down like a clay pigeon.
Yep.
Because the establishment Dems, it was like garlic to a vampire. It was like a cross on the forehead of a vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the truth.
Yep.
And they could not stomach it. They could not handle it. So I invite those people to listen to the list of attributes given to Elizabeth Warren on this show 5 minutes ago.
Yep. I
I know one guy, I talked to him yesterday, says, I can't wait to hear your show. This I dedicate to you. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to give your name over the air. And I invite all of those puke-warm, neoliberal, establishment Dems.
They're conservatives. Let's just call them what they are. They're conservative Republicans.
That couldn't
Wearing
even
blue.
allow a vying opinion from a reputable news service to be up less than 5 minutes on your page, which really is a Democratic-sponsored page that goes back out of Washington if anybody wants to trace it down. They have branches all over the place.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. And their only defense is to mute the person because they don't want the second comment. They'll take the first comment, and then they'll jump on top of it, silence the person that put the dissenting comment out, and that's the way they operate. I was in Philadelphia. I saw how they operated.
Yes.
When they pushed the delegates of Bernie around and hushed them up and locked them out of their seats. I know exactly how they operate.
And by the way, the second winner of the Hammer Time is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer for going on MSNBC Thursday morning and endorsing Joe Biden after Bernie Sanders came to Michigan and stumped for her as the governor candidate.
Yes, folks. You heard it. Because this is a state that he won, that Bernie won.
Yes.
And somehow didn't get any of the delegates
Yeah.
out of the state. And when his delegates tried to speak in Washington, the henchman for the Democratic Party went and
You mean
snatched
Philadelphia?
snatched the microphone from the one delegate for Bernie that was going to speak.
Leisha Fagan. We've talked about it right on the show. We've had Leisha on the show.
Yeah, we're talking about a history that is unmatched. You can't find one break in what we're saying. I dare you to try.
I guess, you know what? Since a lot of you are new listeners, I tell you what. I'll go through the archives of the show. I'll post that episode on our official Spreaker account, which will go to our YouTube page and will be sent out to our Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel. So I'll find that episode and I'll post it. It's one of our when we were a 2-hour show.
And if you go back through our shows, you'll also find where we identified who Whitmer really was. Whose dad was an executive with Blue Cross. We said she is a closet establishment Dem. There's no question about that. And when push comes to shove, they all line up and go for the corporate stuff down your throat. Neoliberal candidate. They do it over. They do it over. They do it over again. And Whitmer's keeping the trend going.
You know what? I'm just going to tell this story right here, right now. In late 2015, I was an attendee at the Kent County Democratic Party dinner, their winter dinner that they have. I was there with the host of what was our sister show, Women Libs Radio. I was there with Raina Cook, Bryn Perkins, Mary Harrington. I was there with April Crow, who used to be a co-host on this show. And we were there, and I talked to Gretchen Whitmer that night, and I said, "Are you running for governor?" And she said, "I can't say right now, but yes, I am running for governor in 2018. So I knew that back then and kept it a secret. After what happened to Bernie in December of 2015, when he had his van access pulled, that's when the light switch turned on in my head that, hey, the DNC is trying to screw Bernie Sanders. At that point, I was for any progressive. I didn't care if they were a Democrat, Green Party, whatever. Didn't matter. If you were progressive, you got my vote. I said on this show 2 years ago that Gretchen Whitmer I considered a friend, and I wasn't going to vote for her. And I didn't. I voted for Jennifer Kurland of the Green Party for governor in Michigan in 2018. That is a vote that I am proud of. Gretchen Whitmer will never get my vote in 2022. And any conservative who runs under the so-called Democrat Party banner will not get my vote, period. End of story.
I would like to have an honorable mention. We've never had this.
Yeah.
Like an all-state. You got first team, you got second team, then you got honorable mention. Well,
Yes.
we got our 2 winners. Now here's an honorable mention. It's the man called Clyburn from
Jim Clyburn,
South Carolina, who Jim Caravel, another venal corporate Dem, came out and said, well, because of Clyburn supporting and endorsing Biden, he saved the Democratic Party. This was Jim's comment. Okay, here's the bottom line. Where the blank are the black voters at? Do you realize he wrote a crime bill that locked up hundreds, thousands of black young people because of his penmanship? Did you think of that when you went and did what your Uncle Tom leader told you to do? Did you think of the fact that Biden, well, first of all, did you realize that your leader, Clyburn, whatever the hell his name is, has taken millions of dollars from the fossil fuel, which gives him the in the club, venal, paid off Democratic Party group? Did that cross your mind? Did you realize that Biden, have you read a book? Have you read a book that accounts when Anita Hill was shut down, was told to be quiet by no less than the flamboyant Biden in the Anita Hill hearings? Where are the feminists? Where are the black feminists in South Carolina? Where are your voices at? You need to point these things out. These facts will change your thinking. But because there are no media outlets that have espoused these truths, you go and vote for the conventional establishment party guy. And you know what? Maybe Carville was correct. Maybe it did save the Democratic Party. Maybe he will cost, along with Warren, they'll cost Bernie the nomination in November. And you'll get all the credit. And when Biden gets his butt handed to him by Trump, who will spit him out, we'll be down and visit you.
Exactly. So for Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and for Senator Elizabeth Warren, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. You both need to stop being douchebags. But you can't help it because you take corporate money. I guess I just can't blame you for that.
Should we say golden douchebag, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. I tell you what, I got 2 more audio clips that I want to play on this show. Folks, NBC News is at it again. They're messing with Bernie Sanders audio. This is a report from NBC News from February 29th. This is Jay Gray reporting on the South Carolina primary. Take a good listen to this, folks.
Decision day in South Carolina.
I think it is very important. It's going to really send a message.
It's his 4th try, but for the first time early in this campaign, Joe Biden seems confident about how things will turn out here.
Because I tell you what, the full comeback starts in South Carolina and then goes here on Tuesday. I mean it.
Super Tuesday, 3 days out now. Many of the Democrats, even before the polls close in the Palmetto State, turning their attention to the 14-state delegate bonanza.
I am asking you to help me defy those odds.
And we are going to stun the world.
To do that, the other candidates will have to stunt the growth of frontrunner Bernie Sanders' campaign.
And that's why you're seeing so many attacks. Because they know this is not an election, it's a movement. It's not just about beating Trump, it's about transforming this country.
While South Carolina voters have the chance right now to transform the campaign.
What happens tonight is going to be very critical, and depending on how this rolls out, along with Super Tuesday, I think is going to win the candidates significantly.
A crowded field watching the results and working to stay in the race.
Another important part of a strong finish here, momentum and money for what looks like it's shaping up to be a long campaign season. Jay Gray, NBC News, Columbia, South Carolina.
Did you notice the audio change there with the Bernie clip?
I certainly did. It's 1,000 little cuts.
Yep. I got one more. I got some good news to report. We don't have to talk about Chris Matthews anymore because he retired abruptly Monday, and I've got audio of that.
Bictory.
Yep, this runs about 1:49. Let's play this.
Let me start with my headline tonight. I'm retiring. This is the last Hardball on MSNBC, and obviously this isn't for lack of interest in politics. As you can tell, I've loved every minute of my 20 years as host of Hardball. Every morning I read the papers, and I'm gung-ho to get to work. Not many people have had this privilege. I love working with my producers and the discussions we have over how to report the news. And I love having this connection with you, the good people who watch. I've learned who you are, bumping into you on the sidewalk or waiting at an airport and saying hello. You're like me. I hear it from your kids and grandchildren who say, my dad loves you, or my grandmother loves you, or my husband watched it till the end. Well, after conversation with MSNBC, I decided tonight will be my last hardball, so let me tell you why. The younger generations out there are ready to take the reins. We see them in politics, in the media, in fighting for their causes. They are improving the workplace. We're talking here about better standards than we grew up with, fair standards. A lot of it has to do with how we talk to each other. Compliments on a woman's appearance that some men, including me, might have once incorrectly thought were okay. We're never okay. Not then and certainly not today. And for making such comments in the past, I'm sorry. I'm very proud of the work I've done here. Long before I went on television, I worked for years in politics, was a newspaper columnist, an author. I'm working on another book. I'll continue to write and talk about politics and cheer on my producers and crew here in Washington and New York and my MSNBC colleagues. They will continue to produce great journalism in the years ahead. And for those of you who have gotten into the habit of watching Hardball every night, I hope you're going to miss me because I'm going to miss you. But remembering Humphrey Bogart and Casablanca, we'll always have Hardball. So let's not say goodbye, but till we meet again.
How about we say good riddance, Chris? Good riddance.
The neoliberal door hits you in the ass.
Absolutely. I'll cheer them on producing more conservative, pablum-puking talking points and propaganda. I wish I had time to play the Ed Schultz clip where he talked about being censored at MSNBC.
And then fired.
Exactly.
And what was his crime, ladies and gentlemen?
He was going to cover the Bernie Sanders announcement that he was running for president in 2016.
It wasn't that he didn't get the newspaper every morning like Chris Matthews and read it? That wasn't the problem?
No.
It's because of his political proclivity? Folks, the game is totally rigged, and it's threatening our very existence as a country with anything democratic.
And yet you still have the conservatives. And I'm just going to read this here.
We know who they are.
It says here, 56 years of change deferred. You can now make it 60 years of change deferred. 1960. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Nixon. 1964. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Goldwater. 1968, 1972.
On and on.
We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Nixon.
Yep.
1976. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Ford. 1980 and 84. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Reagan. 1988 and 92. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Bush. 96. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Dole. 2000 and 2004. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Bush. 2008. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster McCain. 2012. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster Romney. 16 and 20. We can't seek fundamental change right now because we have to focus on stopping that monster
There it is. It's
Trump.
that simple.
There it is, folks. It doesn't get any plainer than that.
That's the recipe for the same evil over and over and over.
It certainly is.
The lesser evil, but the same evil.
Yep. One more personal message to Bernie. If the DNC screws Bernie Sanders, I hope the day after the convention that Bernie Sanders quits the Senate, retires, and enjoys the rest of his life because he deserves to.
They screw him in Milwaukee, it's going to be 68 on steroids.
I hope it is. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Jack Prince.
For our announcer, Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.